By now, you've all heard of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, the latest book published by Mama Jumbo Shrimp. It's more than just another wine book. The fully updated second edition was inspired by students of the Vinitaly International Academy and painstakingly reviewed and revised by an expert panel of certified Italian wine ambassadors from across the globe. The book also includes an edition by Professore Attilio Scienza, Italy's leading vine geneticist. The benchmark producers feature is a particularly important aspect of this revised edition. The selection makes it easier for our readers to get their hands on a bottle of wine that truly represents a particular grape or region. To pick up a copy, just head to Amazon.com or visit us at mamajumboshrimp.com. Welcome to this special Italian wine podcast broadcast. This episode is a recording off Clubhouse, the popular drop-in audio chat. This Clubhouse session was taken from the Wine Business Club and Italian Wine Club. Listen in as wine lovers and experts alike engage in some great conversation on a range of topics in wine. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. And remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in.
Welcome to Italian Wine Club on Clubhouse. This is, according to our Leica Clubhouse manager, the 82nd. Is that correct, Leica?
Yeah, that's right. 82nd.
Oh my goodness, Leica, you really deserve a hand. Thank you, Leica. You know, she's been working so hard. This is not easy, trying to get everyone together. We've been doing this religiously every single week, I believe, except the Vinitaly Marathon week, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So what's going to be the organization for this year's Vinitaly? You made me do like 100 episodes prior to Christmas holidays.
Yeah.
What's going to happen before Vinitaly now?
I think I'm not sure, but we're planning something like with Montefalco, but I think that's still in the pipeline, so I'm not really sure about that yet.
Okay. All right. We were supposed to do that Montefalco special, so we'll see what that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think, Mary, did you go to Montefalco? I can't remember.
I didn't go to the Montefalco. I went to the Etna. And
that was great, right?
It was fabulous. It was fantastic.
Okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar, I do see mostly people we know. I even see Riccardo Cottarella. I don't know what he's doing, not working. He's listening to Clubhouse. He was on a few weeks ago. Ciao, Riccardo. He's going to try to talk to me now, but I won't bring him up onto the stage. Anyway, so you guys know how this works, right? It is the Italian Wine Club. It is what we call the Ambassador's Corner, where one of our Italian wine ambassadors get to do more like a fireside, chat style with their favorite producers. And today, our mod is, of course, Mary Beth Viera. I met Mary when she was working for Gallo at the time in California, and she was their educator, and she sat for the VIA course, Vinitaly International Academy, the one we did out on San Francisco. Is that correct, Mary?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
San Francisco.
So, she was in San Francisco, and that's where I met her. But she is a professional wine educator, a wine consultant, and now she has since quit Gallo, the big animal, and she's the founder of this thing called Crush Course. What is that, Crush Course?
Crush Course is my endeavor to offer wine education to trade teams and to general wine enthusiasts. So offering trade education for wineries, restaurants, hospitality staff to do, whether it's deep dive education and training on everything about wine or a specific sector of wine, like wines of Italy, and to bring them up to speed, or if they're carrying a new wine, to give them a training on that, as well as to the wine enthusiast side, corporate groups that maybe are doing team building and want to do something a little bit more on the fun side. So wine edutainment and hosting wine club events for wineries and doing wine writing. So I'm doing a lot of different things.
You sound very, very busy the way you describe it. I mean, it seems like, when you were working for Gallo as the educator, it was just a walk in the park.
Oh, well, I was very, very busy with Gallo as well. If you can imagine being in charge of training, making sure that the entire sales force nationwide and everybody that was in marketing and sales and communication was up to speed on everything to do with wine. So I developed and then led like 20 wine education events throughout the year. In addition to the online wine academy and the online sales experience academy. So yeah, they kept me pretty busy.
Yeah, I was just joking, obviously. Mary Beth, listen, your last name is Vierra. Are you Italian of origin?
I am not Italian of origin. I am 100%
How did you get that last name?
That last name, I'm Portuguese, 100% Portuguese. My heritage is from the Azore Islands.
Aha.
And that's a misspelling. It should be Vieira, Vieira. So
right.
2 generations ago, that's what it was. But someone in immigration changed it to a Spanish spelling. So of my great grandfather. So I look Spanish, Italian, but I lived in Italy. Actually, before I got into the wine business, I was doing education and teaching and training. So for 5 years. So I fit right in. People thought that after a little while after I got fluent, they thought I was Italian in noisy areas so that they couldn't hear the little, errors in my in my Italian.
So Mary Beth, you chose the Petrussa family, right? Can you tell us why you've chosen the Petrussas and how you met them, the Vigna Petrussa?
Yeah.
How did you discover the winery?
I discovered them actually through another fellow Italian wine ambassador. Sheila Donahue is the founder of Vero Vino, and Vero Vino imports. They're the U.S. importer and distributor of Vigna Petrussa wines and many other family-owned and artisanal wines in Italy. And Sheila Vero Vino hired me, and I do often write, in-depth articles for them, but also do their Vero Talks, conduct their Vero Talks, which are virtual educational interviews and tastings live with producers. So that's where I met them, was getting to know them for these interviews and then tasting their wines, which are just absolutely beautiful. And I was fascinated by their story. I was fascinated by the history of Schioppettino and Hilde's basically hand in the foundation of Schioppettino di Propoto and their wines and their story.
Listen, so where is Sheila based? Is she based stateside or Italy? I can't remember.
She's got a foot in both. Half the year she's in Italy.
Oh, she's in the audience.
Half the year she's in
Sheila.
California.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So as you know, is this your first time hosting at the Ambassador's Corner?
This is my first time hosting Ambassador's Corner. Yeah.
But I've seen you in the audience a few times, so you know how it works. You know the drill. We ask, we get a little bit geeky here, so we ask what the learning objectives from your call today.
Okay, perfect. Well, my learning objectives are to go into the unique history of the indigenous grape Schioppettino and how it was brought back with a fight from extinction and to become the sought-after wine that it is today. But even layering on top of that, what's interesting about the wine is how it's so challenging in the vineyard and in winemaking practices. So I think people will come out aware of why this wine is so being an indigenous from the Propoto region, why it's so valuable, why it's worth working so hard to make the beautiful wines out of it. And we're going to find out that from Hilde and Francesca. We'll learn a little bit more about the Propoto region itself, why it's well suited for growing premium indigenous grapes, not only Schioppettino. And we'll also focus on their sustainability practices. So we'll learn a little bit about that and the story of how they are the third generation of women leading wine growing and winemaking at Vigna Petrussa.
Okay, fantastic. I just want to, before I hand over the floor over to Mary Beth, I just want to remind everybody that this entire episodes get replayed on the Italian Wine podcast. And believe it or not, it is one of the most popular shows. So some of them get like 2, 3, 4,000 listens, but some of them get like 10,000 listens. So there are huge fans, super wine geeks out there, especially for Italian wine. So make sure you tune in to Italian Wine Podcast, wherever you get your pods. And remember, we have a kind of a sister channel on YouTube we've started about 18 months ago. It's called Mama Jumbo Shrimp. So that's right, Mama Jumbo Shrimp. Make sure you subscribe and also, leave us a comment and rate us if you can. That would really be appreciated. Okay, then. So over to you, Mary Beth. I will come back. I will shut up now. As you know, that doesn't happen very often. So this is a rare opportunity for you and Francesca and Hilde. And I see Joy has joined us, and she's, of course, our Italian wine podcast producer. She just did, I think, like 40 interviews at Slow Wine the past couple of days. So that should also be coming on, scheduled into the program on Italian Wine Podcast. Okay. Ciao, Mary Beth.
Okay. Welcome, Hilde and Francesca, and of Petrussa, Vigna Petrussa Winery. In this interview, we are traveling virtually to the cool northeastern corner of Italy, to the Friuli Colli Orientali wine region, sometimes known as the birthplace of modern Italian white winemaking and home to a wide range of very distinctive indigenous grapes, both red and white, renowned for their aromatic purity and clean varietal expression and complexity. Now, tucked along its eastern border of the Friuli Colli Orientali, that it shares with Slovenia, lies the subzone of Propoto and the village of Albana. Here is where we find the 7-acre parcel of the Vigna Petrussa Vineyards and Winery. Its acres have been farmed for 5 generations by the Petrussa family, but now in its 3rd generation as a woman-owned winery. And today we're speaking with 2nd and 3rd generation of these women, Hilde Petrussa and her daughter Francesca. After taking charge as head winemaker from her mother in 1995, Hilde Petrussa began restyling the vineyard, focusing on high-quality indigenous grapes, cultivated with the Guyot training system with a steadfast commitment to continuous improvement. Vigna Petrussa has been highly rated and lauded as one of, quote, Italy's best and most under-the-radar estates by Venus and Ian D'Agata. In a recent article from 2022, D'Agata refers to Hilde Petrussa as, quote, quite simply one of the 3 or 4 best producers of Picolit and Schioppettino. All this while naming one of their 4 Schioppettino wines to his list of Italy's best buys of 2021. The story of Schioppettino, the outlaw grape, brought back from the brink of extinction in the 1970s, is thanks in large part to the passion and leadership of Hilde herself, to champion the grape, along with other locals, to win the recognition of Schioppettino di Propoto as an official DOC subzone of the Friuli Colli Orientali, and establish the consortio. Hilde was the first president of the association. Hilde and Francesca are passionate about not only Schioppettino, but other indigenous grapes of the region such as Picolit, Friulano, Ribolle Gialla, Refosco dal Peduncolo Rosso, and with the recent acquisition of an additional acre, they also produce a selection of bottlings from international grapes. Vigna Petrussa is committed to crafting exceptional artisanal wines in a sustainable, ecological, and ethical manner. They are certified as eco-sustainable under the CSQA certification. So without further ado, let's meet Hilde and Francesca. Hello. You two can release your microphones now. And
yes.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mary Beth, for the presentation.
Well, thank you for coming and joining us. I'm always excited to follow you on the socials, follow you on your website, follow you through Vero Vino. the wines that you're releasing and the traveling that you've been doing to promote your wines. We're going to spend much of this conversation talking about your growing region and your corner of Friuli and taking that deep dive history into Schioppettino. But first, some congratulations on some recent acknowledgments and awards. I see that your wines have received awards and recognition. The 2023 edition of 5-Star Wines, yay! The Slow Wine Guide, and Gambaro Rosso, not to mention many awards from Venus. And I've seen that you have two very recent golds for both a white and a red from the Sakura Japan Women's Wine Awards. So congratulations. Will you give us, Francesca and Hilde, maybe starting with Francesca, a brief overview of your Vigna Petrussa winery, the range of grapes that you grow and the wines that you produce, maybe the number of hectares, and where have you been lately? Where have you been traveling lately? What's up?
Okay, so I started, and my mother will do another part. Vigna Petrussa has now 8 hectares of vineyards, and we are very close to the Slovenian border. There is just a river dividing us. Our area is surrounded by gentle hills. Most of our vines are between 30 to 50 years old, and they are located around our winemaking facilities. As you were saying, we are mainly focused in native grapes, and this was a decision that became stronger and stronger along the years because we want to produce wine that can represent our terroir, can tell our story and our tradition, that consider that we are of a long tradition of winemaking. And this possibility to create a unique kind of wines typical of the area is to concentrate mainly in native grapes. As you were saying, we produce Ribolla Gialla, the Friulano, that is the ex-Tokai. Then we have one of our favorite wines, that is the Rickenza. There is a blend of 4 indigenous grapes. Then we have one of my favorite, that is the Refosco dal Peduncolo Rosso, the Schioppettino, that we vinify in 4 different ways because my mother is very much in love with this grape. And then we have the Picolit, and as international wines, we have the Sauvignon and the Cabernet. Even if we have 8 hectares, we have 13 type of wines. And this is because as family tradition and probably like tradition of the area, the winemakers were planting a lot of different plants to be able to offer locally different type of products. And so despite being so small, we decide to keep most of this vineyard and this type of vines. We are small, so we are just me and my mom with mainly a team of ladies. And so we do a little bit of everything. My mom, anyway, is the winemaker, and she's responsible of all the production of the wines, and she takes most of the decision of the winemaking, the aging, the type of process, and the type of solution that we need to take in the vineyard, while I'm more focused in the communication part, in the sales, and in the marketing. As if you want, I can tell you a little bit more about our recent traveling.
Sure.
We started to travel, and we really wanted to discover new countries where to export our wines before COVID. So before COVID, we were traveling around Germany and Austria, and then we started to work with Sheila. And we went to US, and that was our last trip and probably the last flight. I managed to flew back to Italy with the COVID.
Wow.
Then during the COVID, we've been working hard and trying to do a lot of wine tasting and online, like with you and Sheila. And recently we went back to the US, and with Sheila we went to New York, Chicago, and Boston. We went a few times to Sweden, in Stockholm. 10 days ago, we went for the first time to the Wine Expo in Paris. I went to the Garda Lake because I was invited to the wine media conference, and then we don't want to stop. So next month we go to ProWine in Germany, Düsseldorf, and we will be in Verona for the Vinitaly in April.
Wow. You've been busy, and congratulations on getting the last flight back home during the beginning of COVID. That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yes.
And we're going to be teasing out and learning more about your different roles and the role of Hilde, your mother. And I really like that you mentioned that you have mostly it's a team of women working in the vineyard. So I'm going to pivot over to, going back to the beginning. Your family's been farming this land since the mid 1800s in the Propolto area. And you eventually turned to growing wine grapes on 7 acres. So producing indigenous grapes is really, you might say, in your DNA. But you're now in your third generation of women that are managing the family winemaking business. Tell us about how your grandmother, back in the 1970s in Italy, took the reins of wine growing and winemaking, managing it on her own, and some of the challenges she faced in the 1970s at the time, and then how your mother took the reins, decided to pick them up, and then how you joined, and then maybe tell us a little bit about the women in the vineyard as well.
Okay, so the property was from my mother's side. So my grandfather was a typical Italian family with a lot of brothers and sisters. So my grandfather, they were in 9, and family was involved in the wine production. They were managing the fields. They were grain traders. They had a mill. They were producing flowers. They had like a oven as well, where they were preparing the bread to sold locally. But then this property that was in a certain way consistent was split between the 9 brothers and sisters. And my grandmother, that was sort of a housewife, was not directly involved. When my grandfather died, my mother was 16 and her sister were 22, more or less. And at that point, my grandmother, so in the second phase of her life, decides to take over the reins of this property and to deal directly with the production of wine. This was a very, very difficult situation for a woman back at that time, and was opposed several times by the local male producer, but she didn't want to give up. She was very strong, very tough woman, not very friendly sometimes. And thank you to the fact that we were very close to the Slovenian border. We are like 500 meters away. Consider that none of the Italian men really wanted to work for a woman. We're in a family, there were no men involved. We started our collaboration with a Slovenian family. And thank you to the Slovenian family that is already at the 3rd generation, we've been managing to carry on our adventure and to be consistent in what we do and in our tradition, in our communication as well. And now there is, Betty was the first one that started to work with my grandmother, and now we have the daughter, Marina, that is same age as me, and her nephew, that is Petra, and they are like our angels. They are mainly involved in the fields and in the winemaking process. Then we have Barbara that is supporting us in the office and doing a little bit of everything. Then anyway, when my mother, on the second phase as well of her life, she decided to take over of the winery. And probably she didn't think when she moved out from Friuli. We were living, when I was young, an hour away in Veneto, closer to Venice. But every weekend we were going back and forward to visit the grandmother because she was struggling and she couldn't do all the tough work by herself. So suddenly my mom stopped working in the school. in elementary school, and she decided to take over. At the beginning, it was very, very tough for her, and she found as well a lot of hostility in the male producer. And, the funny things that we laughed at, we can laugh now, because the male producer were thinking that was a job just for male. It was a male business. And so a woman was not able to produce a wine that was up to their standards. And this was on the first phase of her winemaking career. Then the situation, as everybody knows, it was evolving a lot. And thank you to association like Le Donne del Vino, the situation improved, and now there are a lot of very well-trained and capable women involved in the wine business, or producing wine, or be enologists. So the situation is totally different now. Thank you, God, we can say. And then me as well. I trained as an architect, so I moved away from the university. Then I was working abroad for like 12 years. And then I decided to go back. And then, like my mom, I started to help bit by bit, just going to the events, taking some decision. And then bit by bit, I got involved more and more in the wine business. And I found that very fascinating, because it's an all-round job with a lot of different facets. So you have this constant relation with the nature and with the product that is growing, outside of your house, and that you are able to transform in something very special, and to create your own wines. And then there is the part of relation with the clients that I really like, because at the end, the people that are buying your wine, they are buying part of your story on one side, and then you are lucky, because your wine is usually drunk in special events, when you have a dinner with your friends, with your family, and so you are there indirectly for this special moment. So it's a very amazing satisfaction, I would say. It's a very hard work on the other side.
Well, it sounds like this is an amazing story. First of all, I think that probably the listeners will agree, of the three women, and then all of the women that are stood up to the convention at the time and pushed forward to make quality wines, and with the passion. And you've picked up the passion, whether it almost sounds like it's very similar, that none of the three of you in the generation really expected to get the bug, but the bug caught up with you. Whether your grandmother originally had it or not, your mother definitely did. And I can hear it in your voice and in your story, how passionate you are about being connected to the land, and then about communicating the beauty of what your land can produce to the world and to wine drinkers. And that's beautiful. So let's talk about the big the love that your mom and your family and the locals have for this grape, Schioppettino. So let's talk about that. We're going to talk about the grape itself and the wine that it makes. But first, let's let the listeners know about the origins. If you haven't encountered yet, the intriguing wines it produces, Schioppettino, are as unique and intriguing as the history of the grape itself, starting even with the name. The ancient name of the grape is Ribolla Nera, and that name is sometimes used in other parts of Friuli, but right around the Propoto area, it's always been known as Schioppettino. And the name is really an onomatopoeic derivative of scoppiettare, which is a verb in local dialect meaning to burst, pop, or crackle. And it's debate whether that's due to the grape's thicker, crunchy skins that explode in the mouth, like with a pop, or the routine explosion of unfiltered wines bottled a little bit too early, and the popping corks and exploding bottles when the fermentation continued. So what is Schioppettino? It's an aromatic red grape of balanced acidity that's really bursting with blue fruits, and, importantly, aromas of green peppercorn and black pepper, often accompanied by floral perfume. It's naturally very high in Rotondone. In fact, recent studies show that it has one of the highest levels of Rotondone of any grape, along with Syrah. So the wines that come out of Schioppettino are very elegant. They're medium-bodied with this balanced acidity and quite velvety tannins. And because of the level of tannins and the acidity, they have really long longevity. But what's extra intriguing is its history. It's rare and ancient and a noble indigenous red grape cultivated in that Propolto area since the 13th century. But it almost went extinct when its plantings were banned by the European Union in favor of international varieties that were easier to grow around the 1970s. So a bit of drama follows the heights and then decline of this outlaw grape. And finally, its reemergence that are really thanks to the passion of locals in the area, including Hilde Petrusa. Please remind us about Schioppettino's history from the Propolto area, how it was rediscovered and brought back from the brink of extinction just 40 years ago by Francesca, your mother, Hilde, who is here with us, her leadership role in the fight of turning Propolto into a DOC subzone for Friuli Orientale, for Schioppettino.
Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Mama Jumbo Shrimp.
Okay, Mom. Do you want to go ahead? Mamma, vuoi andare avanti tu? Do you want to open your microphone, Mamma?
La coltivazione della vita dello schioppettino dopo la fillossera era stata sostituita con vitigni internazionali e non era più stata inclusa fra le varietà coltivabili da parte degli organi statali. Negli anni 70 la famiglia Rapuzzi ha recuperato e messo a dimora questo vitigno senza le necessarie autorizzazioni e grazie a loro è stato nuovamente inserito nell'elenco delle coltivazioni ammesse. Io nel 2002 ho riunito tutti i produttori dello schioppettino della zona in un'associazione con l'intento di valorizzare questo nostro vitigno e con l'aiuto di agronomi abbiamo sperimentato il modo migliore per la coltivazione di questa vite. Abbiamo ricercato dei vecchi biotipi e messo a dimora un vigneto catalogo per poter effettuare delle microvinificazioni in tal modo da riuscire a dare un'identità a questo vino. Un laboratorio specializzato per la produzione dei lieviti ci ha prodotto dei lieviti indigeni dalle nostre uve per permetterci di mantenere la massima territorialità del vino. È stato fatto anche uno studio approfondito sulla ricerca del rotondone, che è il precursore aromatico del sentore di pepe, e abbiamo scoperto che nella nostra uva la percentuale è maggiore che in altri vitigni.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Hilde. All right, we're not leaving. For those of you who speak English, we're not leaving you without translation. Francesca, you want me to go ahead and translate?
No. If you want, you can go ahead.
Or would you like to? Okay. So what Hilde was saying, and then Francesca, please correct me or add anything that I've missed here. She was reminding us that it was the Rapuzzi family who originally found the grapes that had vines that had almost gone extinct and started cultivating them. So they were the first family that was cultivating the vines that were not legally allowed anymore by the EU coming from the Propolto region. But Hilde, along with other locals, knew that they wanted to continue to propagate these plants. So in 2002, Hilde organized and brought together all the producers of Schioppettino in the area of Propolto into an association of producers of Propolto with the intention of enhancing the local indigenous vine. So they hired an agronomist who helped them experiment with the best way to cultivate the vine. They researched old biotypes and planted what they would call a catalog vineyard in order to carry out microvinifications. They were in search of the best viticulture and winemaking practices that would help them achieve that kind of a territorial identity for the wines coming out of the area. So this was not something happenstance. This was very, very, very structured, their plans to go forward. So with the group, she also led the establishing of a specialized laboratory in the area for cultivating and producing local yeasts for winemaking. So the result is they reproduced the indigenous yeast from their grapes and created a pied de cuvée, or a starter culture, that then all the producers could use to allow to maintain that terroir in the wine. So also, in addition to what's going on in the vineyard and creating the starter culture, the association also more recently commissioned an in-depth study to research the rotundone molecule, which is, if you're not familiar with it, is an aromatic precursor of that pepper aroma found in Schioppettino, Syrah, and other grapes. And when the results came back in, they were really surprised. Well, maybe not. They were pleasantly surprised when they discovered that the grapes from the Propotto area, the percentage of rotundone molecule was much higher than vines coming from other areas. So I think this is brilliant, your association. Hilde has been incredibly active with actionable learnings that are going into improving your wines and making them known in the marketplace, even in Italy. Francesca, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No, that this association has a very strict regulation on producing the wine, and to try to get the best wine that you can produce, because it's always been, even if it was not legally accepted as a vine, everybody was producing it. But then probably back in the time, like when my grandfather was producing the Schioppettino, they didn't have the right technique to have a very high quality wine. So the association did a very good job.
Nice. So why? I guess it just kind of raises the question. Yes, it was a local wine, but why work so hard for this one grape Schioppettino? What are some of its characteristics that you, your family, and other locals love about it and the wine that it produces? Why spend so much time creating this association? And it became Hilde's favorite grape, from what I understand, her most beloved grape and wine.
Mamma, puoi raccontare tu, perché è la tua parte questa. She loves to speak about Schioppettino all the time. Please go ahead.
Noi produttori siamo stimolati a portare avanti questa produzione perché riteniamo che il nostro vino sia unico per natura. È il nostro slogan ed è rappresentativo del nostro territorio. È un vino elegante, equilibrato, che permette di essere abbinato molto facilmente a diversi cibi. E questo è stato anche riconosciuto dal Ministero dell'Agricoltura italiana. Infatti nel 2008 abbiamo ottenuto, sotto la mia direzione, abbiamo ottenuto il cru dello Schioppettino. L'intento dell'associazione è proprio di fare conoscere e portare avanti questo vino che era scomparso, ma che ha delle potenzialità e un'eleganza molto interessante. Okay?
All right. Translating from here, she's really highlighting the unique nature, that this is a unique grape, really from their region. So they were proud of this grape, and they wanted others to be able to discover it. And what they love about it is how elegant it is, how it's so balanced, and how it really pairs well with so many different types of food. So they're enjoying it so much, they wanted others as well. And then very proud of their work in order to get the recognition. In 2008, they received the cruise certification from the ministry. So, meaning Propotto is one of only two regions that may be called out as an official subzone on the label for Schioppettino within Friuli Colli Orientali DOC. The other is Challa and then Propotto. So those are the only two that can be called out. So they're just encouraged and excited with their production, and they believe that their wine is unique. Anything you want to add, Francesca, to just in general why you love it, or we can go further into other things?
It's unique. It's very how do you say, versatile. Elegant with these velvety tannins. Is complex at the same time, and is quite rare. So
Yeah, that is, I think, one of the interesting, and what attracts me to Schioppettino. I'm always attracted to wines of discovery that are rare, and I think that's becoming a trend, in the sommelier set as well. And that's what's so interesting and fun about Italian wines is that you can discover new wines from different regions, and Schioppettino just captured my interest as well. So it wasn't only the fight from extinction that your mom and your family, raised up Schioppettino. But what is curious is Schioppettino is so difficult to grow and to vinify. We know that wine is made in the vineyard, but Schioppettino is notoriously difficult. But you still love it. It is a vigorous vine, making large bunches, lots of leaves. It's difficult to ripen. It has compact bunches. It's late ripening, so at risk of early rains. And it's overall sensitive. So why, not why are you behind it? Because you already told us why you're behind it, but what is it that your mom and the other producers in the region have been doing to work with the vine and to bring out the quality of the vine? Why is it well suited for growing in your region? And then what are you doing to bring out the quality of the vine and manage it, basically?
Okay, Mama, do you want me to explain the terroir and the story, or do you want to go ahead with the description of the territorio?
Ok. Il nostro territorio, dal punto di vista della sua conformazione orografica, è un territorio più unico che raro. Le montagne, che sono anche molto alte, sono a ridosso del mare e per il vino questo significa corpo e struttura. Sono garantiti dalla contemporanea presenza del benefico influsso del mare e della buona escursione termica e dei paesaggi montani. Nella piccola vallata di Prepotto abbiamo 3 tipologie di terreno. Le colline, che sono formate da una marna chiamata ponca o flash, è costituita da un'alternanza di strati di argille calcaree e arenarie ricche di carbonato di calcio e magnesio e conferiscono al vino molta mineralità e longevità. Le colline di terra rossa e ferosa che danno vita a vini più scuri e più concentrati, mentre il fondovalle è pietroso ed è in grado di immagazzinare e poi riflettere il calore e conferisce al vino maggiori profumi. Nelle degustazioni che noi facciamo in associazione avvertiamo immediatamente la diversità di questi 3 territori.
Okay. Thank you, Hilde. Okay, so there's quite a bit to translate here. So she was telling us about the territory, what makes their region so great for growing this grape, or any grape of quality. The Friuli Venezia Giulia, from the point of view of its orographic conformation, is unique. The area has very high mountains close to the sea, so that's something that's interesting about it. But for winemaking, it means that both the body and structure it contributes to body and structure in the wine. So we have the moderating influence of the sea, and the mountains give this good temperature range or diurnal shift that holds that acidity in the wines and cools the grapes in the afternoon. So in the small valley of Prepotto, where they have their land, there's three types. So the hills are formed by a marl called ponca. So a lot of people have heard of maybe the famous fleesh soils from the area. Well, locally they call it ponca in Prepotto. That's alternating layers of calcareous clays and sandstones, which have calcium carbonate and magnesium. And so that gives wine the minerality and the longevity. So some other hills in the area have the red iron-rich stone earth. So that gives darker and concentrated wines. And the valley floor has stones, so the capacity for storing and then reflecting the heat. And that, the area can be quite cool, so that's important. And so when they've done tastings with other producers, they've noticed that, there really is a variety. Even within the Prepotto region of different producers, there's a variety of flavors and a variety of styles from the different land. and the terroir. Francesca, anything that you want to add to that?
Not really, that's right. When we do the wine tasting of the Schioppettino, you can really tell the difference from the soil where they are from and from the tradition of the family that they produce the Schioppettino. You can tell where there is like a how do you say, a history in the past, a wine that was drunk from other families, or if it's like a new winemakers with a different type of palate and flavor. So it's very funny when we do the wine tasting because you can find a lot of shadows of these Schioppettino grapes.
Okay, so I'm really wanting to go there for a lot of reasons to come and taste with you all. So what I found, one of the things that fascinated me quite a bit when I was talking with you the first time that we met was learning how extraordinarily difficult and finicky this grape is, and then all of the research and the findings that your mom has put together along with the association. Tell us about the early experimentation with the vines and the current vineyard practices that you at Vigna Petrussa are implementing to overcome the grapes' really challenging nature so that you can make this cru level wine with a grape that is hard to ripen, is so vigorous, has huge bunches. What are you accomplishing? How did you get there?
Mama, do you want to say something with your Schioppettino, or can I go ahead? I can go ahead with this one. Anyway, there are only 108 hectares dedicated to the cultivation of this Schioppettino di Prepotto, and in total, between all the producers, there are between 120, 130,000 bottles produced, and most of I would say, all of the companies, all of the winery are family run, and everybody. We are around 2022. We have just few hectares of this type of vines. The Schioppettino, as you were saying, require very hard work because it's a plant that is very vigorous and produce a lot of grapes, more or less 4 kilos, 5 kilos per plant. That with the association, they decided that the maximum production for the plant is 1.5 kilos per vine, and then there are different phases where you thin all the bunches, and I would say that there are 3 different passes. At the beginning, roughly in May now, we start, in February, we start to select the double bats, leaving just one. Then there is a second phase when the grapes started to when you start to select how do you say, the dimension, not the bunches, and you leave just you remove the second bunch and you leave just one bunch, the healthier one. And then when there is the horizon, there is the third passage in the vineyard where you leave just the best bunches, and then you cut the bottom and the 2 wings, leaving just the heart of the bunch, so all the berries can get at the same time to the maturation, and so you get a sort of more standard quality of grape. So and then there is the final work that you need to remove all the leaves to expose the plant to the sun for the final maturation, and then there is the harvest that is done usually at the beginning of October, and then is done always manually in our winery. So it's a very hard work. And it's a very delicate, so you cannot expose the the bunches too early. Otherwise, the grape burn and suffers a lot. So it's a very hard work.
So that's when you and all the other women that you mentioned spend a lot of time in the vineyard. You're continually passing through, it seems like, just watching your vines and selecting the grapes, and then it comes to harvest. So I think that we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that you vinify 4 different Schiopettinos. So in addition to the other whites and other reds that you produce, tell us about your 4 different Schioppettino grapes. I mean, the 4
Uh,
different Schioppettino wines. And
Wines.
then, yes.
So as you can understand, is my mother obsession and love. So we produce 4 different kind of Schioppettino. They maintain the main characteristic of the grape, the hint of spiciness, the elegance, this velvety tannins, but they express the 4 of them with a different strength and intensity. So the Rinera, the is IGT, is our lighter version of Schioppettino. It doesn't see any wood. It's just vinified in stainless steel for 12 months. And this is easier and fresher to drink. Is very good with an aperitif, or you can pair with fish, with tomato sauce, or with meat. Then we have the Schioppettino di Prepotto, where we have the DOC, and is done, of course, according to the rules that we were describing before, from the rules created by the association. The maceration in our winery is done in big wood barrel for 24 days, more or less, where there is the malolactic process as well. And then we do the petit cuvée ourselves, while for the Rinera, we use indigenous yeast. We decide to put this wine in big wood barrels that are already between 15 to 30 hectoliters, for 24 months. And this we use a big barrel because the impact of the wood is less consistent, and so will not cover the main characteristic of the Schioppettino grape. And after the 24 months resting in the barrel, we bottle it and we let it rest for another year in the bottle. The Schioppettino for me is amazing if you pair with a steak, with a roast, but I love it with a dish with truffle or with mushroom. There is the same sort of base of flavors. And then the last 2 Schioppettino are produced just on the best vintages and on selection of the grapes. So the one that we have now is the 2018, while the previous vintage was the 2018. The Schioppettino Riserva, we do the petit cuvée as well, is refined 36 months in tonneau, so 500 liters barrel, and always 1 year in the bottle. The Perla Nera, instead, is our 4th Schioppettino. I think that my mother created it because it was the way that my grandfather was producing this wine. As I was telling you before, there was not in the past a right technique to produce elegant wine from this grape. So my grandfather was drying the grapes to obtain like a special wine used in special occasion. The Perla Nera is sweet, but not sweet. Is delicate, but with a strong character as well. And the harvest is done manually, but in this case, we use wood basket. We let it dry in frutaio. There is just a room with natural ventilators for 2 months. And then we use a smaller barrel. So 1 year more in wood, in barrique, and always 1 year in the bottle. And this, my mom loves it with chocolate. I prefer with duck or with game, with like special meat with special taste. So these are our.
These wines are beautiful for anybody who hasn't tried them. I mean, I think it's just to recognize that you have the Schioppettino di Prepotto DOC, that you worked so hard as a family in the region to make that wine. That's kind of your flagship. But you created the Rinera, which is a stainless steel only, just to highlight the grape. And then the 2 special wines, the Riserva and the Perla Nera with the Appassimento.
Yes, you're right. At the beginning, we were calling Ribolla Nera, but then we had to change the name, and so now we call Schioppettino Rinera.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing where we are on time. I definitely wanted to ask about your other grapes and the other wines that you make, but I know, Stevie, that there is also possibly questions out there. Shall I ask one more question, or shall we turn it over to opening up to
I think you
questions
can
from the
ask
field?
one last question, and then we're going to have to close.
Okay.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about the other wines that you make in your portfolio beyond Schioppettino.
As I was saying before, we are mainly focused in indigenous grapes. So we have Ribolla Gialla, that is a very popular wine that is vinified just in stainless steel. Then we have our Friulano, that was the old Tokai. Then we have the Refosco dal Peduncolo Rosso, that is my favorite red wine, and that is more round and juicy. The Schioppettino, and another wine that we produce that is very typical of this area and is produced in very small quantity is the Piccolit. That is a rare wine, is like coming from floral abortion. So we produce 1,200 bottles per year, and the bottles are 0.37, and it's very velvety, very elegant, and is special. Was drunk by the Sborgi court or the Pope as well, and leave you this velvety feeling with a final taste of almond and honey. But then my favorite, and I think my mom's white favorite wine, is the Rickenza. That is a wine that is a cuvée on indigenous grapes. So Friulano, Malvasia Istriana, Riesling Renano, and Piccolit. We vinified this wine in a separate way and with different techniques. So stainless steel for some wines, barrique, or big wood barrel. When they are ready, we assemble them, and then we let them rest after the bottling for minimum 6 months in the bottle. Usually is a wine that is ready after 4 or 5 years, and then is a long-lasting wine, even after years is still perfect. And we created this wine because my grandmother and my ancestors, they were planting a lot of plants, and so instead to remove this plant that were older by small quantity, we decided to give them a new life and a new dress. So 17 years ago, my mother decided to create this blend, and we gave the name of our princess just to, these female pictures of our family. So that's it.
That is one of your wines that I have not tried yet, and I can't wait. And I love that you're honoring all of the other grapes in your vineyard by creating that blend. So thank you so much. This has been really fun getting back in touch with you again and sharing your story with everyone. Is it time for us to see if there's any questions out there?
No, I'm gonna have to close the room, but just two things. There's no time for questions. You guys did an exhaustive interview. Just two things I want to say. First of all, I don't know if Hilde knows, no so se lo sai, in the new book of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, which is the textbook of the VIA, Vinitaly International Academy, official textbook. And this year, what we did was with the grape entries, we have benchmark producers. So for Schioppettino, which is Ribolla Nera, Polcalza, we have, of course, Ronchi di Cialla, but also Vigna Petrussa. So congratulations. You are one of the benchmark producers. I don't know if you know that. Hilde, lo sapevi?
Sì, lo sapevamo, abbiamo il libro, abbiamo tutto, grazie mille.
Ah, ottimo, bravissime. So I just wanted to say that. And then I wanted to bring quickly Laika up, and she can tell us who our next guest is.
Hi, Stevie.
Hello.
So we're still working on the next guest, but we're going to have Alan Kwok. He's recently our Italian wine expert.
Yes, from Hong Kong.
And he's still confirming with either Julia Madonna of Catal di Madonna or Alberto Cordero di Montezemolo. So I'll let you know. Yes.
Okay, great. So that'll be next week. Stay tuned. Come back, you guys. And yeah, Leica's a little bit tired because she worked Sunday and yesterday all day long at Slow Wine doing thousands of interviews. So thank you very much for that. And of course, Joy. Grazie. Thank you, ladies. Mary, Beth, Hilde e Francesca. E alla prossima, ragazzi.
Grazie, ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Grazie mille.
Ciao.
Once again, here we go. Swirl, sniff, sip, spit.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.